In this video, we will be showing how O3 provides comprehensive constraint management. Constraint management is a key part of the CII Advanced Work Packaging best practice. Successful implementation of constraint management leads to improvements in information, visibility, alignment around priorities, reduction in scaffold cost, job site organization, improved productivity, and identification and mitigation of design and safety issues. According to CII, a constraint is any information, tools, materials, access issues, or otherwise that prevent or delay the safe and successful execution of work in its entirety. Common constraint types include missing material, access planning, and crew safety training. Constraint identification involves creating a list of these constraints to handle in the future. Constraint management takes this a step further, including the identification, alignment, tracking, resolution, and reporting required for successfully and consistently removing these constraints. Over the course of the next couple minutes, we will follow 4 individuals as they work together in O3 to manage their constraints. Our participants are Wayne, the workface planning lead, Wesley, the workface planner, Cathy, the constraint owner, and Karl, the construction manager. Our story begins with Wesley, the workface planner, logging into O3, where he will be chasing down his blocking constraints. To start, Wesley opens his dashboard to view information about constraints and how they affect his work. His widgets are completely configurable and include skyline charts, IWP charts, and status history charts. The Open IWP Constraints by Type widget shows which constraints are at risk of delaying work in the field. Wesley can filter the display to show a single contractor or even a single contractor within a specific area or discipline. Once he has the widgets configured to show only the data he wants, Wesley can drill down to those high-risk constraints simply by clicking on the display. This provides him with a list of constraints that is filtered to only those high-risk constraints shown on the previous chart. The list is automatically sorted by countdown, which is the number of days until the IWP planned start date. Wesley opens the top item and assigns it to Cathy, the constraint owner, with a due date and priority. Wesley presses Save to finalize his changes. Cathy, the constraint owner, logs into O3 to resolve the constraints that have been assigned to her. She views her personal dashboard that includes information on her recent activity, the IWPs that she's working on, her open actions, and her activities. She can jump directly to constraints that are assigned to her by clicking to drill down through a widget, or Cathy can click on the Actions option in the menu at the top of her screen. Selecting Actions takes her to a list of the to-do items that have been assigned to her. Clicking on a specific task opens the constraint details where she can add comments such as, "I talked to Bill and we are good to go as is." She can also make edits or resolve the constraint to remove it from her task list and unblock the IWP. This same process happens throughout the job site where constraints are managed across all packages and supporting items like documents, drawings, and requisitions. Meanwhile, Wayne, the workface planning lead, regularly checks in on the process through running his constraint review meeting. The constraint review meeting is a weekly meeting where the owner and contractor get together to identify new constraints, as well as update and manage existing constraints. Wayne prepares for the constraint review meeting by reviewing the constraints to make sure that the data is complete. He does this by using a set of widgets on his customized constraint review meeting dashboard. He starts by looking at a widget that shows him the count of open constraints that do not have a due date. He starts by looking at a widget that allows him to drill down to any of those constraints. From this list, he can group the constraints by any of the columns on the grid. In this case, he chooses to group the data by construction work package. He is also able to filter the data by any of the fields on the grid. Wayne is preparing for a meeting with a specific contractor, so he chooses to filter the grid by contractor. Double-clicking a constraint item opens the details where Wayne can update the due date and make other changes, such as assign the constraint to someone for resolution. Saving the constraint finalizes the changes, and he is returned to his grid. If any constraints come up during the meeting, he can add them directly from the grid, and he can return his dashboard using the top menu. Throughout the process, Karl, the construction manager, is overseeing constraint management on his project. Karl logs into O3 to look at his construction management dashboard, which shows him everything that he needs in order to know that constraints are being properly managed. His dashboard includes views on the actual versus planned duration of work packages for understanding the impact of constraint issues, views of the priorities of constraints in different areas for understanding the breakdown of critical constraints, views of the quantities that are being held up by constraints to help in prioritization, and views of the historical and projected constraint closeout to show the rate of constraint resolution. Karl can also measure the health of the constraint management process to ensure constraints are identified and resolved for a successful project. No matter how you manage constraints, here are some things to keep in mind for a successful process. Maintain one consolidated list of all open constraints. Assign owner, due date, and priority for each open constraint. Standardize the approval process for each constraint closeout by package type. Set goals appropriate for your project. For example, goals for a large or mega project would have different goals than a portfolio of small projects. Consistently update open constraints with the constraint review meeting tools. Create a standard workflow by priority for work packages that have open constraints. And measure and monitor the health of the constraint management process. In summary, O3 provides industry-leading comprehensive constraint management across 9 work package types and major entities. Purpose-built tools for running constraint review meetings, customizable dashboards for every key stakeholder, automated rules to make the process efficient, and analytics to support decision-making based on detailed real-time data. Contact us today at www.o3.solutions to learn more.